Welcome to the April 28th Franklin Board of Education meeting. The meeting has been properly posted. Ms. Larson, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Sprague.
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky.
Here.
Dr. Khan.
Here.
Dr. Beer.
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mr. Alexandrovich.
Here.
We are all present.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Dr. Beard. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. First item on the agenda is the election of board officers. And this is how we will do, we will now hold, this is how the election will happen. We'll start with the election for board president. Without objection, if there is only one nomination, the vote will be done by voice vote. If there is more than one nomination, we will vote by secret ballot, which is only permitted during officer elections. There's no second required for a nomination. Upon election of the board president, he or she will then preside over the meeting. So I will now accept nominations for board president. I would like to nominate Mike Sprague. Are there any other nominations for board president?
I will nominate myself.
Alan? Are there any other nominations for board president? Are there any other nominations for board president? Nominations are now closed. Everybody accepts the nomination, correct? We will now vote. You have in front of you the ballots. Fold the paper, and Jim, are you picking them up? Okay, Lisa will be picking them up then.
Lisa, I'd like to vote. Oh, thank you.
It's one vote for Alan Alexandrovich. 2 votes for Alan Alexandrovich. 1 vote for Mike Sprague. 2 votes for Mike Sprague. 3 votes for Mike Sprague. 4 votes for Mike Sprague. 5 votes for Mike Sprague.
Thank you. This time, I will
Switch seats.
switch seats. We will switch seats.
There's a chance I have too much gear.
It's okay, take your time. It's fine.
Take your name. Oh, I'm gonna-
Oh, that's yours? I took mine down.
Yep, I brought mine with.
Early. Good job.
All right, I'd like to open nominations for vice president. Are there any nominations for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Linda Witkowski.
Are there any other nominations for vice president? Any other nominations for vice president? Nominations are closed. I think we need a voice vote. All in favor of Linda Witkowski for vice president? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Lynn.
Thank you.
So we have to do one more seat change. So Dr. Khan, if you would please change seats with Ms. Witkowski.
We're not gonna
Pretty
wait
soon
till-
everyone will be
Till
ready
the end
to
and
go.
everybody moves?
Sorry, do you want? Sure. Sorry, I touched it.
Oh, thank you for keeping things tidy. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
At some point, there's not gonna be enough chairs. The music is gonna stop.
The next two positions don't have to change their seat. It's just president and vice president.
All right, I'd like to open nominations for treasurer. I'd like to nominate Alan Alexandrovich for treasurer. Any other nominations for treasurer? Any other nominations for treasurer? All in favor of Mr. Alexandrovich?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now I'd like to open nominations for clerk. Any nominations for clerk?
I would like to nominate Debbie Larson.
Any other nominations for clerk? Nominations are closed for clerk. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to community comment. Participants under this agenda item must limit their statements to 3 minutes with a maximum of 15 minutes for any and all comment. If the community comment is related to an agenda item, the board may respond to that comment either at the end of the community comment session or during the discussion of that agenda item. The board may not discuss a comment or question that does not relate to an agenda item, per Board Policy Administrative Rules 8300. Any community comment? When you get up, please state your name and your address.
Walter Penzick, and I'd rather keep my address out, but I'm a city resident. My children do go to schools here. If that's okay? I mean, with the way the world is right now, I'd rather keep my address personal. If you need to see an ID, I can show you one. Okay, thank you. I'd like to talk about the last agenda. Was talking about the mask mandate for opening school next year. First off, I'd like to thank the board for actually having kids in school throughout this year. I know we were one of the only few in the county, and I did notice a big difference. My kids are in 4th grade and 1st grade, and it was a huge difference having them in class. So first off, thank you on that. But the mask mandate thing, I just don't get it right now. I understand a lot of people want to wear the mask. I don't take offense to it, but I think having our kids sitting in the classroom all day long wearing a mask is just not appropriate. And not only in the classroom, but then they go outside for gym or in the gym class on recess. They're outside running around. Little 4K kids all the way up. My kids are in elementary school, so I can't speak for the rest of the schools. But every day they ask me, like, what are we doing here? We go out to a restaurant, we have to wear the mask as we enter the door, and then when we sit down, we get to take our mask off. And my kids are like, this doesn't make sense, Dad. What are we doing? Like, we're okay if we're eating, but we're not okay when we walk to our car, okay? The kids in school, they have snack and water, they get to take their mask off. They go to lunch, they take their mask off. So are they all immune when they're eating? I know this sounds ridiculous, but I just want to get this out there and tell you my feelings on this. You guys do a good job. I watch some videos. I can't make it all the time. I try to watch the videos of these meetings, and you put a lot of data together, surveys, numbers, but yet there was no numbers showing why you're making my kids wear masks next year. I did some research, and it's pretty hard on Google because they don't like you researching mask stuff in my favor, what I believe is my favor. So according to the CDC, Wisconsin for 2019 and 2020 flu, in Wisconsin, there was 183 deaths and 3 children. Obviously, that's tragic. COVID, 3 deaths. So we're making our kids wear masks all day long in classroom and doing all these other activities when it's basically the same thing as the flu. Hospitalizations, 96,000 kids in Wisconsin were hospitalized due to COVID. Of those, 96,000 kids had COVID in Wisconsin. Of those hospitalized from the age of 0 to 19 were under 800. So this isn't a huge effect on our kids, okay? I then looked over the email that was sent again, just to kind of look it over again. According to Franklin, the quarantine studies, the contact tracing, of the 2,578 kids that were quarantined because of contact tracing, 2,164 said they got it in school. So if the masks are working, why did all the kids get it in the school? And of all those kids, 34 got COVID. Come on, that's 2,570 kids were quarantined, 34 got COVID. And I'm sure all those 34 kids are fine, okay? Let's get over this. There are study after study. You guys want to say you're following the CDC guidelines? Dr. Fauci, head of CDC, whichever one wants to praise, March 2020 is in an interview saying masks do not work. They may help droplets, but you're actually endangering more of yourself by touching your mask all the time, okay? A Marine study took 2 separate Marine groups. They quarantined these Marine groups. Those Marines did everything that was told to them to do, and the other group didn't. They both had the same amount of COVID. So let's look at you want to look at numbers and get all these facts. Let's put it together for our kids. And these masks are just not what they should be doing, okay? Stanford study, which Stanford says is not their study, but a doctor that worked there said masks don't work. They just don't work, okay? Again, we want to follow CDC guidelines. We were wiping down everything, our groceries, our mail. We were afraid to get a pizza. We had to drop it off in our front porch. Now the CDC says, we were wrong. You don't really have to wipe anything down. You can if you want, but it doesn't help anything, okay? What's Texas, Florida? Sorry, I'm all over the place. I just want to make sure I get this in my time. Texas, Florida opened in March. Their cases are down. I understand we're having vaccines now. And here's the other part I don't like is that we said we're gonna slow the spread for 2 weeks. We shut our schools down to virtual, then we shut them down till summer. Thank God you guys let them back in. But now we're saying, well, we needed a vaccine. We got a vaccine. We needed our teachers vaccinated. They got moved to the front of the line. And now we're saying, well, we got to make sure our kids get vaccinated, or the option to have them vaccinated by fall. What's next? What's the next step that you're going to take to get these masks off our kids? Okay? Please consider it. I know I'm just one person right now. I don't know if you guys got kids, but it's not right to have these kids sitting in masks all day long, okay? Please consider it. Please, if you have data or something that says supports why you're making these kids wear masks, I'd like to see it. Please post it on your website or something, or put it on an agenda meeting. Let's have it on an agenda. I know you can't ask me questions because this isn't an agenda meeting, but maybe put it on an agenda list so we can have an open discussion. And I'd like to hear your comments on it, why you're doing this, why you feel the kids should be doing this. I'm open to it. I'm not a COVID denier. I'm not an anti-vaccine person. If you want to get it, go ahead. I might even get it. I'm not sure. But let's have an open discussion. I want to know your reasons, your reasons why you're going to have our kids sitting in masks all day long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, just a moment. I'd like to hand out something to everyone.
while you're listening to testimonies, please consider doing this little task. I don't have enough for everybody, so I'm just going to give one or probably two of these.
Thank you.
It's going to be enough for you to look at. Could you please share one for you? Just a little test while you're listening to the testimonies. I would like you to match the 16 emotions with the pictures of kids that you see on this sheet. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Molly Winky. My address is 3676 West Central Avenue. At school, in the classroom, we are social distance and wearing our masks. But at lunch, we are next to each other talking without masks. And at recess, when we play Grab a Monster or Tag, we are touching each other with our masks down because we can't breathe when we are running around like that. That is also in gym. And when we are told to put them up, my face gets really hot and I can't breathe, so I have to take it off again. And I don't like wearing masks in gym too because I get hot and sweaty, and we should at least be able to have our masks down outside. We should not have areas at recess so we can play with other classes, because some of my friends are in the other class and I can't play with them, and that makes me sad. I want you to make masks optional now and next year. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amna Ožegović. I am a Franklin resident and employee of Franklin Public School District. The reason why I'm here tonight is my two beautiful children. I am a mom, and that is the title I stand strongly behind. Working for Franklin Public School District, I learned that that is where I want my children to be. I am so thankful to be a part of exceptional teaching crew at Franklin School District at Robinwood. I am not going to throw data and statistics here right now. I do know for the fact that the state of Wisconsin is not in the state of emergency anymore, and neither is the city of Franklin. I am here to tell you that my children are struggling. Both of them have had so many headaches in this past year, and it all started with wearing airway blockers, because that is exactly what the masks are. This is not normal. This escalated to development of asthma-like symptoms. My daughter says to me on a daily basis, "Mama, I can't breathe in a mask. Mama, I love gym class, but I can't breathe, and I cough for a long time after the class. Mama, it hurts me here." And you know where it hurts me then? My heart hurts. You say children are resilient. Yes, but maybe mine are not. Maybe my children are very honest how they feel, because that is what I have always been teaching them. And don't you dare to judge them. My second grader is learning about social emotional development. But what is the point when she doesn't even know if her classmates are smiling or not? Her rash on her face is hidden behind the airway blocker. SEL should be helpful right there. The weird throat clearing, the coughing, their ears are hurting. Who do I reach about that? You? Then help my children. You went against all odds and opened schools, which I am extremely thankful for. let my children go to school with a smile on their faces. Let my children count on all of you sitting here because they love Countrydale. They love their school. They want to go there with a smile on their face. We, the people, elected you to be there for our most treasured and loved human beings. I am not here to stand against you. We are in this together, as we were all been from the very beginning. We are in this together. Now I am asking you to help my children. They need help. Thank you.
Good evening. I had prepared written testimony thinking I may not be able to attend tonight, but here I am. So if you don't mind, in the time allotted to me, I will work off that presentation, off that testimony. Thank you. My name is Kevin Fisher. I've been a Franklin resident since 1992. I've built not one, but 2 new homes here. So I have paid my fair share of property taxes in nearly 30 years, most of which has gone to support our public schools. My daughter currently attends Forest Park Middle School and loves it, loves her teachers and fellow classmates. Overall, I find the Franklin School District to be a very, very good one, but it is not without its warts. Recently, the district announced it would not only continue requiring masks for the remainder of this school year, but would also require them during the 2021-2022 school year, even though the governor's mask mandate was shot down by the state Supreme Court. The district made its mask proclamation with no prior public notice. There was no survey taken of parents. There was no public hearing. There was no vote taken by the school board. If nothing changes, 1 year from now, our kids will still be forced to wear masks in school. That's insane. When does this madness end? When you folks wake up someday and arbitrarily decide it's over? 3 months from now? 6 months? A year and a half, 2 years? When? This obsession with masks is ridiculous. At a Franklin Common Council meeting last July, the city's own health director, Courtney Day, said, and I quote, "Masks by themselves do not prevent anything. The best practice is to make sure you're washing your hands and staying physically distant from someone. By and large, there are far many things that people do that are a little bit riskier when they're wearing masks because they forget about washing their hands, or they get hot, so they pull it down or pull it up, or they wear it around their ear, or take it off with their hands and then lick their hand. All sorts of things that you're not thinking about because you think the masks keep me safe." End of quote. Well, the jury is still out on just how effective masks really are, but we do know the damage mask requirements can inflict both physically and mentally. Requiring children to wear masks is cruel. It's unnecessary, and it needs to stop as soon as possible. Parents are frustrated, kids are frustrated. Unfortunately, our society is now filled with COVID hypochondriacs. We as citizens have also become slaves to unelected bureaucrats who seem to relish their newfound ability to control. And we've had enough. For many, requiring masks until possibly June of 2022 was the final straw. One of my biggest frustrations with living here in Franklin has been the refusal of every school board since I've been a resident here to comprehend that the school district works for you, not the other way around. So I'm respectfully challenging you to think and act outside the box for a change. Do it, not for the system or the district, but for the people you truly represent. And that's Franklin parents and students. Stand up for them. Stand up to the district and say that this lengthy extension of the mask mandate is simply wrong. It's an absurd overreach. You can do this if you have the courage. If changes need to be made, then make them. Get rid of the mask requirement. Make it voluntary. Then if people want to wear them, they can. And that to me is a win-win situation. Know this, and I conclude now. Know this, there's a movement building momentum all across the state. Parents and students who feel that they're being oppressed are telling their elected school representatives in no uncertain terms that these stringent restrictions have gone too far for too long. Hopefully you'll hear, you'll listen, and take the proper measures, as I mentioned before, not for the district, but for the parents and their children, because they are your top priority. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your consideration this evening.
Hi, Tom, 8400 West Elm Court, Franklin. I just really quickly first want to express how proud I am to live in this city. It's amazing to be part of such an involved group, and I'm just so grateful to you all as well for everything you've done over the last year and a half or so, or whatever this has been, and beyond that. And then also I just want to add one emphasis to something the previous speaker said. I would like to hear in discussion what specific and clear criteria there are for stopping the use of masks. I mean, whether or not we start them in the next school year, what are the criteria for upon which we will base decisions to stop the use of masks? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Michelle Winky. I'm here solely as a mother and a community resident. Just a side note, I do work at the high school in the snack shop, but that's gonna be another time. This is me as a mother today. I come here as a mother of 3 kids, grades 2, 4, and 6. I'm not sure where to start, but since the district email came out last Friday, so many thoughts have been swirling in my head. So I wanna start with a positive note. Last June, our district said we will do everything to get these kids back in the classroom. That was the best for them. I could not have been more proud of my district that day when I knew those words were coming. We were leaders in this community. We were leaders in this state. We were asked for input on how the year would look and our thoughts about many criteria to make it safe for our staff and students. That included disinfectant, masks, social distancing, and other requirements. I can't remember what was in that email. With that being said, we went into the year with masks. We did not have the state mandate when this was all started. We got that state mandate in August. We went into the year with the masks and with the hope of it not lasting the whole year. My kids were deciding between being homeschooled or being in person. Seeing their friends and being in the classroom was more important to them, and they decided to go in person, reluctantly wearing a mask. However, it is a year later, and we are still masking up our kids and plan to continue this fall. We were not, as parents, given any surveys by the district on how we'd like to see the 2021-22 school year happen. Why was that? Why were we not given a voice on how our kids should attend school? We were just asked if we plan to go in person or virtual, and I understand the need for that. If this mask rule continues this fall, what are the specific criteria that needs to be met to make the masks optional? You gave us specific criteria on how the schools would remain open and what would cause them to close for a specific time. There was a detailed plan. Just saying we're gonna start the year off masked is not a detailed plan. I wanna know the detailed plan. There are currently over 24 districts in Wisconsin, both public and private, that are making masks optional between now, summer school, and fall. An example was on WTMJ last night about McGuanago, which is a city that is exactly like us, 30-plus thousand residents, about 5,000 students, and 8 schools. So it's comparable to Franklin. They're being the leaders this year. They're letting their kids get back to normal this summer school. They're leading the way for their children to see their teachers smile at them. They are leading the way for the kids to see their classmates, look at them and laugh with them and see those smiles. Why are we not the leaders in allowing our students and staff to see, feel, and connect with each other by seeing our faces? We should be leading the way, not standing still. I respectfully ask the school board and the district to reach out to families to find out how people really feel about these masks for our children, whether it's mandated versus optional. I also respectfully ask that our elementary and middle school students remove their masks when they are out at recess immediately. There are several studies out there that show outdoor transmission is massively reduced. Some examples, the Journal of Infectious Diseases back in November states viral infections are low due to the droplets dispersing outdoors. The Washington Post 2 weeks ago had an article stating vast majority of cases are from the indoors and open spaces where the breezes disperse airborne particles along with humidity and sunlight tend to the coronavirus less viable. BBC.com from 5 days ago posted another article that states infections are massively reduced outdoors. Fresh air disperses and dilutes the virus droplets. They evaporate outside, and the ultraviolet light from the sun should kill the virus out in the open. In closing, I ask that our district become a leader again and remove the mask mandates for the Franklin Public School students. Send out a survey to see how parents feel about these masks. Give us a criteria to make these masks optional and allow our kids to get fresh air outside at recess while they are playing with their friends and not just by themselves so they can take their masks off. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I apologize, I actually forgot. I am so not used to this. We actually reached out to some community members, and I will leave you the petition. As of right now, 471 people signed the petition to remove the mandatory mask at Franklin Public School District. So I will put them here, and I would like you guys to look through them. Thank you.
Just a note on that, that is in less than 48 hours of just one post on Facebook.
Less than 48 hours. We had 400 as of right now, and it keeps being signed. 471 as of right now.
Good afternoon. My name is Evgenia Vasilenko. I'm here as a human being, as a woman, as a daughter, sister, as a mom of 3 kids, as a business owner that I go along with doing the virtual school this year for my kids. And I'd like to address the same issue the former speakers addressed. I'd like to address the mandatory masking at schools. The task I asked you to fulfill during the testimonies of other people, I got an idea. It sparked when I was looking at a picture that somebody posted of a classroom, and the post itself said that they were having a guest speaker who read a story to kids, and kids loved it, and kids were excited, but I couldn't tell anything by the faces of those kids. I just saw the eyes that were just meaningless to me. So I decided just to test it on you. I took a picture of these emotions on the internet. I masked them, I censored their emotions, and I gave you a list of emotions that you can match and see how easy it is to do. I asked my 10-year-old son if he could distinguish between like happy, sad, frustrated, angry, or proud, and it took him, he guessed just 3 of them. Two of them he guessed just because of the hand positions in the pictures. The rest, he was really frustrated, just staring blankly at these faces. So here's my testimony. So I was going to write it and prepare for it, but it just was born as a comment to to a post on Facebook and discussion with parents, and as a reply to other parents' comments. So I strongly support making masks optional at schools. As of April 23rd, there were 14 kids who tested positive out of almost 4,000 students across all the schools in Franklin, meaning 99% of healthy kids are made to wear masks daily for over 30 hours a week. The data is from Jerome Jedinak, that keeps a close eye on cases in Franklin. That's from his table that he posts like usually weekly or bi-weekly or like daily. It used to be daily when the cases were like going up. The state mask mandate is long gone, so why are we doing it to our kids? Cloth masks are emergency authorized products for medical use in a declared state of emergency. Masks are not FDA approved medical devices, but are we in a declared state of emergency, and are we doctors to prescribe masks to our kids? Side effects of prolonged mask wearing have never been studied, let alone studied in kids. I will not go on into scientific facts about efficacy of cloth masks now. Every caring parent should have done their research by this time, and we are well aware they are hardly useful in protecting against the virus. I mean the cloth masks that are used at schools, because it says it can be any particular material. We don't have any specific recommendations about that. Like, it doesn't have to be N95 that is like the most effective in this case. But what are we doing to our kids' social emotional health? Kids are not okay wearing masks or wear them without issues like some parents claim. I'm sure children would gladly take them off if we adults would only let them, if we adults would only stop scaring them, if they, teachers, stop disciplining children for wanting a gasp of fresh air, if they, schools, would stop threatening with disciplinary measures and sending kids home if they are not obedient, and for wanting to breathe fresh air and not wanting to be a part of this abusive relationship. Kids can't stand up for themselves. We adults have to do it for them. Yes, this is abuse. Let's call it for what it is. All day, every day at schools, children are conditioned into perception this little piece of fabric is going to substitute their immune system. They are not allowed mask breaks. However, it was promised by schools. Elementary school kids are told to do zombie walk to keep social distance. And yes, you heard that right. I've heard those stories from kids' parents. Zombie walk is when kids should keep their hands straight in front of them, walking through the hallway, distancing from their peers, walking in the like whenever they are walking out or walking to have lunch. This is not funny. This is not normal. This should stop. I'm here at the school board meeting tonight, and I'm standing up for all the kids of Franklin Public School District, even though my children are virtual learners this year due to the fact they'd have to wear masks all year. I know I was lucky enough to do that. Most of the parents had to send their children to school to keep their jobs, even if wearing masks by their kids was not quite sitting well with them. Also, let me be clear, I'm not against those who want to continue wearing masks and voluntarily decide to do that for themselves and their kids. But if you're afraid of an unmasked person while wearing your mask, you don't really believe your mask is effective, do you? Schools have been moving goalposts all this year, first relying on governor's mask mandate, giving hope to remove mask mandate, and then taking this hope away. The state mask mandate is over. It's illegal and not safe to continue to use the use of unapproved product on the faces of our kids. Enough is enough. There is a reason why emergency orders can't go past 60 days, and this includes the use of emergency authorized products. Masks should become optional as soon as possible. Let them go now. Thank you for your attention. And I'm sorry, I forgot. You would probably, I hope you took a chance just to take a look at this task. I hope you did well on it. But in case you are wondering what the answers are, you have to remove the masks from kids' faces figuratively and literally from all the kids of or just, I ask, we are asking to make it optional. We are not asking to force anybody to not wear a mask. Please make it a choice, and I'll just distribute the answers. Thank you for your attention.
Any other community comment?
Thank you.
Community comment is closed. Move on to item number 6, the consent agenda. Like you, somebody to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I second.
Motion by Mrs. Larson, second by Dr. Khan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, school board announcements. Any announcements by school board members? Item number 8, school board calendar. There's a regular Board of Education meeting Wednesday, May 12th, 2021 at the ECC at 6 p.m. and a regular Board of Education meeting Wednesday, May 26th, 2021 at the ECC at 6 p.m. Number 9, District Administrator update, Dr. Miller.
Okay. Just got a lot of things in front of me here. All right, so good evening. I would again like to welcome our newly elected board members. Your service to the district is going to be important and meaningful to your community. So, I'd also like to thank the board for their participation in the development of our 3-year coherence plan and our workshop this evening. The plan will focus on those 3 core strategy areas that incorporate equity and social emotional learning while improving our evidence-based teaching and learning, fostering high-performing teams, and engaging internal and external stakeholders. Our new 3-year coherence plan is scheduled to be completed at the conclusion of this school year and implemented next fall. Since the last Board of Education meeting, we have shared our fall instructional planning report with our staff and families. We'll continue to communicate with our families and be responsive to the changes related to COVID-19. There's approximately 30 school days remaining this year, and we intend to finish the school year as safely and as productively as we've begun it. Testimony from the board has been submitted to the Joint Finance Committee regarding funding for education in the biennial budget. In this testimony, we emphasize the importance of increasing funding for special education. Mr. Sprague, Dr. Cohn, and I have also provided testimony to the Senate Education Committee asking for their support of our proposed bill which amends the law regarding our district report card. We expect to be providing testimony to the Assembly Corrections Committee in about 2 weeks. If the bill passes, our district report card will no longer reflect the dropout rates associated with our students who leave the House of Corrections and do not enroll in another school. Finally, I'm delighted to share that next month we'll be celebrating Staff Appreciation Week. As part of our recognition of staff, we have partnered with the Educational Foundation to display 3 billboards in Franklin that thank all of our Franklin Public Schools staff. You'll see the billboards starting May 3rd. 2 are located on Highway 100 and 1 is located on Highway 36. We're very proud and grateful for everyone during this particularly challenging year of COVID. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Any questions? All right, number 10, report presentations and other school board business. Appointment of CISA 1 Annual Convention Delegate, CISA 1 Board of Control Member. This is an action item. I have been going to the CISA meetings and on the Board of Control since Mrs. Evans left the board. I would like to continue in that position, so I would like to nominate myself to be the CISA convention delegate and the CISA board member. any other nominations for CISA Board? All right, seeing none, all in favor of me as the CISA Convention Delegate, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
It's a one-year term, Carl.
It's a one, this is the first year of a 3-year term on the Board of Control. Or the end of the first year. But this comes up every year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, designation of district depository, Mr. Milzer.
Yes, the district is currently using BMO Harris Bank, and we are recommending that we continue with this bank and that the board designate that as our depository until we want to change banks. And that would be a little bit different than we've done in the past. We've done this yearly, but I had a conversation with WASB, and they said that most districts really just designate a depository, and then when they change or want to change, it comes back to the board again. So that's what I'm proposing here with BMO Harris.
So this could come up in 2 weeks, or it could come up in 3 years
Right.
again.
When was the last time we made a change?
2014.
I did ask whether we have a contract. We don't have a service contract. I know that our balances are growing. At some point, would we negotiate a contract with them?
Right, we had that conversation with them, and they said that the best time to get in on a contract is when interest rates are higher or they're expected to drop, so that you can lock in the interest rate that you're getting to offset your fees. Right now, interest rates have never been lower, so
Yeah.
it would be the exact wrong time to sign a contract that you would be locked in at that low level as interest rates rise.
I guess I'm not sure that we just want to not visit this every year, or at least periodically, because, this is, it's an important element of our finances, and just to let it kind of autopilot, to me, seems like we should not do that. I could suggest every other year. I just, like I said, as our balances grow, and banking is changing. We don't know how rapidly it changes. And I know, Jim, you do check around. You said every year. Do we ever, could this be bid? How do we know we're getting the best deal?
We do check around, and when we switched banks, we did get the lowest rates. We did have banks, large banks that you would think would give us a bid, refuse to bid because they said our business was too big for them, too many transactions. We've looked at other banks in the past 2 years that are all higher. So it isn't something that's on autopilot. We do look at it. We keep an eye on it. It is a big change to make, so it's something that we want to make sure if we're moving for the right reasons. We're going to save money. We're going to get good service, good online banking. So we'll continue to look at it and bring that back when it's time for a change.
If we do this on an every year basis, is there something saying that you can't come back to us in 3 months and say, we'd like to change banks for this and this reason? Or do we have to wait until the last meeting in April when we
No,
reorg?
right. Yeah, if let's say it was November and we were looking at different banks and we wanted to change, we could come back in November and the board could take a look at the changing of banks and vote on that.
So just to clarify, the advantage of transitioning from discussing this yearly is basically to save time.
Right, we have this discussion each year, and we're really not looking to change. So what most districts have done is make it an item that's approved, and when it's time to change, it comes back. And that's from Wisconsin Association of School Boards.
Is it most districts our size? There's a lot of different sizes of districts in the state.
I'm not sure that that makes a difference. I know with banking, there are many different varieties. Districts in small towns tend to use the small town bank that's there, and even if another one comes around, they don't change because that's their town bank. And some of the larger ones, it's just really difficult to change, so they stick with the bank for quite a long time. I'm in contact with all of the districts around here. I don't know of any district that looks to change banks very often.
No, I would agree. I guess my experience has always been, we've always had, in my entity that I work for, we always had a service contract, and it was for 5 years, because you're right, no one wants to flip around with banks, so it has to be for a period of time. But at least it put us in a position where we would be, again, bidding it periodically, just to make sure. And if this just continues,
For $165 a month in fees, I don't believe it's worth it. We're not talking about a large expense here.
I'm just saying, I think we should still check in every year. I'm not really interested in just not having this come back once a year.
To Dr. Beer's question, is this the 5 minutes that we talk about this every year, especially when we have new board members every year, is there any time other than that for you that it's any different?
Yeah. Is this merely
Is this
board
merely a
meeting?
5-minute board discussion
Yeah.
that we're trying to not have?
Do you have to think about it yearly, other than putting this agenda item in?
Yeah, we do have to think about it yearly. It doesn't occur at this time of year usually. It's usually in the fall that we take a look around, but we think about it definitely. And
But
we
you
keep
would
an
do
eye on
that
things.
anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is it,
Yeah, we do
Is it-
that anyway.
so there's, other than this 5 minutes that we're talking now, is there any other reason? Is there any other time that for you, that we don't see? Because I don't see the 5 minutes I don't see this 5 minutes as a waste of time.
I think the question is that how much of time do you have to invest every year if the board has to review? Other than our 5 minutes, how much of time are you looking from your perspective? I think that was the question Mike was trying to kind of clarify, that how much of time are you spending specifically for this review of the time deposit?
We usually spend a couple of hours on this, checking around, checking rates, and looking at what the market has at different banks. And that tells us whether we need to look at it closer as far as switching banks.
I think it's reasonable to continue to report out to us every year. Since you're doing that work anyway, we've spent more time discussing whether to remove it than we would have spent discussing it. So I'd say just keep it, because, it's better to have that policy in place that doesn't necessarily rely on your due diligence, Mr. Milsa, you know what I mean? We'll review it once a year.
But what are we reviewing?
Just that
I mean, we don't see the details of the charges from BMO. We don't see the quote from a U.S. bank. I know they didn't quote us, but just to throw one out there, I mean, we're really not reviewing anything. We're spending a few minutes doing virtually nothing but approving it because that's what Jim is recommending.
Yeah, that's a good point.
From a standpoint of efficiency, if you will waste 2-3 minutes on everything you do, you're going to be extremely inefficient. And this is a way of just eliminating something that we don't really need to look at.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are we
Alright.
not required by statute to do this annually?
No.
Okay.
But we are required to review it. I mean, this just didn't happen on agenda. That we've been doing this every year.
We've been doing it every year because we've been doing it every year. It was one of the things that the board did every year, so it's on the agenda. When I checked with WASB, because no one around us does this, when I contacted other districts, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I contacted them and they said, well, most districts have the board vote on it and then they're done until you change banks, that you come back and then they vote on it again. So that made sense to me from an efficiency standpoint. And there was no need to be doing this all these years. So 5 minutes a meeting over 30 years adds up.
And so you'll look at it every fall like you always do, and if there's a concern or a reason to bring it back, you would bring it back to us at that time.
Exactly.
But you're not just looking at it once. Is that my understanding? You look at it periodically, and if it were to change, you would bring it back to us. So I'm really not sure
Right.
what the hiccup is here.
Yeah, I guess I'm not either at this point.
Right.
I think I agree with that because the concept of until unless Mr. Milzer is looking at it, and then if there's a change, if there's something, it comes to us. If not, because every year we're just saying yes, yes, without kind of delving into the information. I think until unless he's doing his vision job and bring that to us attention, that will be the best thing to do.
So I would make a motion.
Oh, I was gonna say, go
I would make a motion to approve the recommended district depository of BMO Harris.
second.
Any discussion?
Why are we doing that, though?
Because Mr. Mills recommended it.
No, but that motion didn't say, and this will not be brought up every year unless Mr. Milzer brings it up. Your motion was just to accept the depository.
No, as recommended by,
Correct.
by
Oh, so
Mr.
you,
Mills.
as recommended is
Yeah.
taking the whole recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I think it's important oversight. If we had a policy that said it'd be coming back to us when it changes, but
Well, you,
it's important oversight. I don't understand why we're just saying,
do,
let us know when the bank changes.
you can't change the bank without our say-so, correct?
Technically, I could change the bank, but by statute, we wouldn't be covered under liability. I wouldn't be covered under liability. So it's important that I bring it back to the board when we want to make that change.
And again, you're looking for that change, and if there were to be that change, you would bring it back to the board.
Right,
Correct?
right.
Okay.
And over the years, we've looked at different banks, and it just has always been more expensive.
Well, I guess it's something that probably is covered in an audit also, right?
Mhm.
They're checking for that, so there's oversight with the auditors.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? All right, motion by Mrs. Larson, second by Dr. Beer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10C, 2021-22 preliminary budget assumptions. Again, Mr. Milzer.
Yes, before we come back with a budget in June, we go over our budget assumptions with the board, and tonight, that's what we're doing. Most of the factors that we have in the budget are estimated, and this year, there's probably even more, because it's a biennial budget year for the state. As far as enrollment, we're estimating our resident enrollment to decrease by 93. Looking at our plans for next year, that's very much an estimate. Could be very different, could be much less, we don't know. If it was that number, we would have a revenue loss of $757,110. And in the presentation last week, we did point out how that would be covered by the federal dollars we're receiving. As far as open enrollment, the board approved 68 seats, which should keep our total incoming open enrollment about even. Then we're receiving federal aid related to the pandemic. There's 3 programs. All of them are the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, and then they are 1, 2, and 3. For next year, it's 2 and 3 that would come into play. Things changed pretty quickly. When we gave the report last week, we were assuming we could use all estimated $1.8 million of ESSER II in this current year. And after sitting through a webinar, I'm not so sure that the estimated $800,000 can be used this year because we won't find out about the amount until probably September. So although on paper it says we can, we probably wouldn't end up doing that. So we're shifting to including that in next year for 21-22, along with ESSER III, which is estimated at $1.81 million. again, both towards the 21-22 budget.
Question, do we need the 800,000 in this year's budget to make it whole?
No.
We don't need it? Okay, thank you.
As far as the state budget, the process has begun. It's a 2-year budget that they have. And so we don't know what we're getting next year. If it was in the kind of in-between year, we would already know what next year is. So that adds to the estimations that we have to make. The governor made a proposal. There were many items favorable to school districts in it. As far as additional revenue in different ways, the budget process is now with the legislature. The Joint Finance Committee is holding hearings around the state. We never know how those will turn out, but we're assuming that the special education cost percentage reimbursement from the state will increase. I believe it's been asked to increase it from 28% to 35%, and we're estimating 32%, which would be about $280,000 more than this year.
Quick question on that.
Yep.
What is that a percentage of?
Of what we spend on
Okay, of our
special ed.
expenditures.
Yeah. As far as equalization aid, the district's equalized value went up by 5.71%. Last year, the state average was 5.08, which makes us look richer in the state formula, and we would think we would receive less than we otherwise would have if we wouldn't have been that high. But an increase, if they do increase, the funding for that in the biennial budget would help mitigate that. As far as retirees, we have 4 teachers that we're looking at retiring at the end of the year, which is less than average. I would say average is in the 6-7 range, but it fluctuates. It's been as high as 10 or more in a given year. And then the Long-Term Capital Improvement Trust. Next year, we are looking at doing 2 projects. The first relates to baseball and softball at the high school for different reasons. But they both come down to not having enough playing time on a field. For baseball, it got switched from a summer sport to a spring sport, so it went from having nice sunny days all day, every day, to have the field for practices and games, to being moved to the spring, where it, obviously they can't have practices during the school day, and then it gets dark pretty early, and there's more rainy days and inclement weather days that they can't use the field. So with our 3 teams wanting practices and games, they're not able to do that. So looking at this, we're looking at adding turf to the current fields to make them usable by multiple groups over the additional hours. And softball is headed in the same direction for a different reason. The other 2 fields they use besides the one at the high school are behind the city garage, and the city has indicated that they can no longer have those. They'll be taking that land back in 2022. So in looking at it, adding turf to the 2 fields was about 1/3 the cost of adding additional fields at another site. And in addition, there's a lot of other uses once the field is turfed for programs such as our Phi Ed classes, marching band and so forth, where they're always looking for a large area that it isn't muddy, and especially in the spring, to be out there. And there's a lot of room in the outfields, especially for baseball. You don't think of it that way, but it's bigger than the football field out there in some ways. Not the same shape, but it's very large and can be used for other things. This project, looking at they'll be grading, putting down the base layer, installing the turf itself on both the softball and the baseball fields, is estimated at $1.22 million. And we're looking at this project being carried out in late August or September because we've already approved some field usage before that. Second one is also located at the high school. It's at the recreation and athletics entrance. If you've ever been in there, it's the entrance that people from in the district and outside the district, it's their first look at, oh, this is Franklin High School, and it just does not look that nice. The ceiling's old. The decor, when we can't section the building off down there like we should, and we do in a new building, there should be doors down that hallway, because right now people can go all the way downstairs into the shop area, down the hall, and we would like to section that off, and this would put locking doors about midway down that hallway, so that we could do that. Several of the graduating classes have donated money, about $14,000, to switch from having all of the plaques on the wall, as far as things that they won, teams have won. If you stand at that juncture in the hallway, you can see them. They're on the wall like 100 yards down, all at about 7 feet high, which is impressive, but it reminds you of the 1960s, like this is what we would do in the 1960s, and they've come out with systems now where you can have a touch screen with all of this information loaded into it, and it can be playing information and showing people information, but when you walk up, you can touch it, you can find out by sport the things that have gone on, by individual players. There's all kinds of information on it, and it can also be accessed on our website as well for people to look at without being there. So it's a really nice system. And then we would look at replacing all of the ceiling tiles and the lights. Ceiling tiles are just looking very old. The lights kind of hang down. There must be piping above that ceiling because it's a little bit low. And with the new LED lights, we're hoping that we can fit those in at the same level as the ceiling without having them hang down at all. It would give it a very nice updated look, as well as doing a little bit of tiling, perhaps to set off these monitors that people would look at so that they would be drawn to that area to take a look. That project is estimated to be a net cost of about $275,000. We would probably do some painting on the outside of the building right by that entrance. We were looking at doing that anyway, and now it kind of could be incorporated into this, which will make that section look much better. In June, we'll make another deposit into our long-term capital improvement trust of approximately $2 million, which would more than cover the cost of the projects that we're looking at. So tonight we'll keep moving forward with the projects unless the board disagrees with doing these projects for some reason.
Were there other projects considered?
We looked at all of the projects. A lot of them are driven by enrollment, adding space at different buildings, building a building. There's several buildings on there. Elementary school, we don't need that right now. The other one that's coming down the pike would be doing the fields next door here, the land we purchased, but we're working through that process now, and it won't be ready for this year.
I guess why the high school thing now? We could leave that money in the long-term capital plan for the fields when that's ready, right? We don't have to spend it. Why that one now? Because we have the 14,000, or why?
We have money to do the fields next door without dipping into this additional money that we would put in there. I think we'd be pretty close. And we'll have money left from this that could go for those fields as well. So in looking at this, it kind of all comes together at the same time. You have a donation for these things. We could move ahead with it, but now we're putting it into a hallway that doesn't look that nice. It's not our best foot forward for Franklin. It really, honestly, is one of probably the worst looking areas in our district, being down there. So you would want to fix that. We do want to section people off so they're not wandering around the building. So you've got a multitude of things coming together in this one. And although it's $275,000 in the scheme of things, it's not that large. And I think it really takes us forward for that area and helps improve certainly our image.
I'm not arguing with that, Jim, but it's been that way, I don't know, 30 years. So I guess why now? Because we have the money.
We have the money to do it. We have a donation that fits right in with it, and it all kind of comes together.
It
What is-
sounds like the sectioning off issue is a safety issue as well, so a part of that is, I mean, you don't want people wandering the school.
Yeah, if you've ever been to an event in that hallway when, like, I can only speak to wrestling tournaments, obviously. But I mean, that, it's a dark, dank, dirty looking, it's embarrassing, quite honestly, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm surprised we haven't done something with that area before.
Right?
But we do have the money now if we're going to make that improvement for that, what is it, like the athlete of the year or whatever that is called. I'm all for doing that now because it's a very poor face for Franklin when you see that area. And to Angie's point, absolutely, I mean, I've worked at those tournaments and you're constantly chasing kids down that hallway saying, get back there, stay away from those doors, stay away from those shop areas. So I definitely think it's a great idea, especially if we have the funds to do so.
And exterior painting and kind of bringing attention to that entrance, I think, would be important as well.
I agree.
Within the last couple months, I was at a Saber Center event and had somebody coming in, well, I need to find the gym. It's like, well, you're completely in the wrong place, but that's the entrance that they're drawn to because that other one is mostly hidden away, so.
What is the current balance of the long-term capital fund?
Just about $500,000.
Okay, I'm not saying the project doesn't need to be done, I just would like to have a longer perspective on what projects are out there. This is the first time you heard me say that, so, we haven't seen these projects before, this is the first time we're seeing these projects proposed is tonight. And we've already had a facilities plan that came to us, many years, and it was never in there. And so I'm not going to oppose these right now, but I just think we need to do a better job of thinking ahead and knowing what our needs and wants are, so.
The baseball field and the softball field for turf are on the plan, are on the long-term plan.
Yeah, I do agree with Mrs. Witkowski that, of her sentiment that we do need a long-term plan that we know is a long-term plan for building and grounds, and I do know that we did talk about the baseball field before, I don't remember, it was a couple months ago.
You can move on.
All right. So in salaries, the district will provide a 2% increase in wages for next year. And in benefits, we've received bid information for self-funded health insurance, as well as our fully insured rate guarantee. And we're reviewing all of those options, and we'll get that information to the board. We're planning by next Friday so that you have about a week and a half with it before the May 12th board meeting. And then we will continue to maintain our fund balance or increase it. And that was it for assumptions.
Do we have to do anything about the improvement in that hallway and or anything else? That's all good, okay.
Why is the number of retirees important for the budget assumptions? Is it because of long-range insurance?
Yes, yes. And the number has been higher. Like when it gets up to 10 or 12, it's a different story than 4. I suppose if it's low, I wouldn't have to put this on here.
So would you consider this a difficult budget to put together?
It's difficult in the assumptions we have to make for how we're going to have school next year and the unknowns from the state and really how the access to the federal funds will work. That makes this probably the hardest.
So there'll be more scenarios that we would have to consider, if this, then that, or?
No, we're going to come with a solid budget built on our best information. And if it has to change in the fall, if things change, that's what we'll do. The state budget would probably be the biggest part of that. The federal funds is just a matter of working it out. This DPI doesn't even know how some of these are going to work. They don't have the information yet. There's no access. They have an amount for us, but there's a lot of, they have to go through with paperwork with the federal government to make that happen and get it into their system. And we're just hoping there's no surprises in that.
Does the decrease in students for next year, does that impact the expenditure side of the budget?
Well, as we showed last week, we would look at making that up with the federal funds. So those would be taking care of expenditures that maybe these funds would have, but are not going to if those students don't show up.
Will the funds from the federal, the 1.81 million, help offset some of our expenses for the next year? Like if you're thinking, okay, this is X amount going to be there, so that's 1.81 million be counted, and that will decrease our responsibility as such, am I right?
Right.
Do we expect, since the 800,000 in ESSER 2 will not be coming in September, do we expect the 1.81 million to come to us in the next school year, or do we expect that to be delayed as well?
No, I believe that will come to us because that amount is given entirely directly to the district through a formula, the Title I formula. So the legislature has no effect on that. The reason we're not getting the 800,000 is the legislature came up with their own rule, which is going to take 5 months to execute.
But the 1.81 is definitely one time.
Yes.
Unless there's an ESSER 4.
Yeah.
Let's hope
Still.
not.
It's a lot of money, 1.8 million.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mills. Or anybody else? All right, item D, National School Board Convention Reports. I know Mrs. Sapersky and Mrs. Witkowski and I all attended virtually. It looks like we attended some of the same seminars, but I think we all attended some different ones as well. These are apparently reported on a lot of the same ones. So anyway, Mrs. Witkowski, maybe you'll start.
Okay, I did, yeah, right, you can pick 3 areas to report on. I did share with you the National Budget Award that they have available. And I did include the PowerPoint. It is somewhat of a, process that you would go through to get the award. I don't think that's as important as the content of what's part of a good budget. So there were some good examples in there that we can refer to when we get the next document. So example might be, there's an org chart in there, explains some of the different exhibits that are part of a good budget document. So that's why I included that. And then also the same district that did they present at the state district also? State budget, the state convention also, the same
Sun Prairie, did they?
Wisconsin district that was at the national one. But it was how they, did their communications and how they planned for it. And I did include their document that I got off their website that we might look at during a retreat possibly, in terms of how they operationalize some of those ideas and how to implement some better communication, two-way communication. And then I also included just the whole virtual experience. I thought was, we're board members here, we don't know what our students really had to deal with in terms of going virtual, so it was interesting to see how that worked. And it was a national conference, so they had to cover time zones, which kind of threw me off. And they also are trying to, what I liked about the national conference is also you bump into people and you have these conversations with people from all over. How do you create that in a virtual environment? So they have these different ways of, you come online during this time, they have some conversation starters. So it was a little more work to engage, and I wasn't really able to do that because I did not watch it. I did not attend it during the time it occurred. I went back and looked at different things. So it was just a whole different conference experience, and they plan to be in person next year. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Saperski. Oh, sorry.
Oh, but I said thanks.
I would say the same, just in terms of the virtual experience. I actually found this one almost harder to interact with than the Wisconsin one, which, I mean, they're both virtual conventions. It was pretty much the same format, but I just felt more disconnected with this one. It just didn't seem, and I don't know exactly why. The sessions I attended were very interesting. I mean, I shared with you kind of my favorite ones. I had a couple others I went to, one talking about how to support our LGBTQ students and staff and things. That one actually wasn't as much as, I kind of left that one early because it was more about like offering professional development. It wasn't exactly about students, but there's another one I attended about governance and how that can be successful. But I thought that one was most interesting because the guy just kept talking about the, every board should read this book. Every board should read this book. And it was the book that we have chosen to do, probably do a book study with, the governance core. So to hear, you know, and people in the chat are like, oh yeah, we used that book. Oh, that was a great book. And it was like, okay, we really should get going on this book because it's clearly a very popular one right now. So it was very interesting. The keynote speakers, Leslie Odom Jr. and Soledad O'Brien, I mean, it's interesting to hear kind of, you know, more famous people and how they're impacted by their early educational experiences. And, you know, anytime Leslie Odom Jr. is going to sing to me, I'll sit and listen to that. So, but it was, I mean, it was interesting. It's always cool to hear, you know, other perspectives across the country. But like I said, it just felt a little bit more disconnected. That was my experience.
I think I found the same thing in some ways because it was, I thought that the question, people were asking questions at this one, and they weren't really answering the questions. It was more disconnected. The speakers were more disconnected from the people, I thought. I mean, they weren't really answering questions that people were asking. Although I did find the 15-minute sessions where you could talk with other people. I thought they were interesting. I did attend 3 or 4 of those, and there was about 30 people in them, so they were only 15 minutes. I wish they had been longer, because then you always had to run on to a different seminar that you were going to. But there was some interesting insights from people. There was one in particular about how did your district get through COVID? And it seems like our district got through COVID better than 99% of the districts that were on there, which I'm thankful for. And I hope we continue to lead in that. I like the Sun Prairie communication, linkages, how to sort of organize yourself as a board. And I thought that was very interesting. It was similar in some ways to the state convention with Howard Swamico and how they did their linkages. And I think that's really interesting, especially as we look at the coherence plan and some of that sort of thing. So I guess I agree. I think that might be something to talk about at the retreat.
And in order to put it on, they use their staff members to kind of host different things. So they'd be in their living rooms, you know, coming on. It's just a different world.
And just that importance of really being involved with the community, that it's not just, you know, the board here and the staff and the schools and the students, but I mean the greater community who maybe don't even have students in schools, just really kind of keeping them aware and engaged with the work of the district. I think it's just really important to kind of keep that in mind.
All right, thank you. Board retreat scheduling. I know we've We've done 2 retreats in the past. Dr. Miller, I don't know what we're,
So tonight it would just be looking for dates. So I think the best way to handle this is send out a doodle. So when you get the doodle, just fill it out. We'll pick 2 dates, but potentially if we do decide to do a book study, we might just use 1 date and then spread the book study out over time. So more to come on that. I'll send a doodle out.
What is the name of this book that's being bandied about?
The governance core.
Yeah.
The Governance Core?
I will
Whatever,
I
you'll
will
get-
be
you'll get-
providing it to you.
you'll get a copy of it.
Yeah,
Oh, I will, okay. Thank you.
I'll be providing it to you.
All right, great. Treasurer's report is available in the Board Docs library. Item 11, Board Liaison reports. Does anybody have any Board Liaison reports?
I did attend the SWSA meeting last week. We did have Children's Hospital on, or they did, I'll share the slide deck with you, but they did, I think what I came away with there was that, we're all kind of fatigued with the COVID thing, but I think COVID, we want to be done with COVID, but COVID is not done with us. We still have to be aware of that it is there's science and it's a medical condition. It's not something we can just choose to say we're done with. We have to stay with the data. I think also they made a point about until children are really vaccinated, we're not really going to get herd immunity that we really need to kind of know that we're achieved that, even though that's still not known exactly what that means. So that was interesting to keep us attuned to the fact that we still have that going on. We can't just dismiss it. The meeting also included some updates on the state budget, and also they had a former legislator, what was his name, Olson? No, I can't.
Luther Olson.
Give some tips on how the legislature works, which was very interesting. He did make a point that you do have to be there. You can't just say, if they are accepting testimony or want to hear from us, we need to be there. You will be noticed if you're not there, even though they don't always take what you say necessarily and do something with it. They're more about solving problems, not really, maybe you had a specific problem, they can address that. That's what they're good at. They're probably not as good at giving us a stable revenue source that we can predict
What does SWSA stand for, Linda? Or what
Southeastern
is it?
Wisconsin.
Schools Alliance.
It's a
Thank
school
you.
alliance
Okay.
of suburban districts.
Great,
And
thank
it
you.
includes
Okay.
superintendents and school board members. And they meet virtually. It's really, I think, gotten better now it's virtual. There's more attendance, I feel. So, again, the budget's going on, and I'll share that slide deck with you. And it's pretty long, but you just flip through the certain slides that probably have more information. Were you on it also? You were?
Yep. And I talked to Terry, she's the executive director, about perhaps some talking points that board members could then pass along. So in case you don't have time to go through a long slide deck, you could get the highlights of what's in it.
It's also in the letter, so that's still going on. That's all I have.
Anyone else? I did attend the CISA Board of Control meeting last week in person. It was the first time I've been in that building since I've been going to CISA meetings since September. So it was nice to be in the building. Dr. Gavigan, who is the executive director, and some of the board members were there as well. There's some new board members like me who had not been there yet. So they gave us sort of an orientation, and then we got to go to the meeting. I think I'll be attending the meetings in person. And the CISA annual convention and board meeting to elect new board members is May 18th, if anybody wants to go, although I know there's some other things going on that night. And that concludes my report. School and community engagement reports. Well, I should say, as Dr. Miller said before, Dr. Miller and Dr. Cohn and myself went to the Senate Education Committee to hear testimony on, I did not write down the number of the Senate bill, but anyway, we.
SB 235.
Thank you. We gave testimony last week, and hopefully the assembly coming up, it was supposed to be today, but it got postponed. So, hopefully that will get passed soon. It's frustrating to have it take so long, but we'll keep going until it gets passed. School and community engagement reports. Oh, sorry, please.
Sorry. I assume this would be my last report on my liaison school Pleasant View. This week, students participated in the student engagement surveys. Forward testing is taking place, and as Dr. Miller has already stated, Staff Appreciation Week is coming up May 1st through the 7th.
I am going to be going in person to Southwood Glen on Friday, so this is the first time we could schedule that, so I'm looking forward to that. And I know there's a lot of outdoor events, athletic activities in the spring that more and more people can go, so get out and meet the community if you can.
I would just like to say, because I see we're going into closed session, if you could tell Molly, I see Molly is gone now, how brave I think she is and what a great job I think she did presenting in front of all of us, because we can be pretty scary people sitting up here like that, and she did a fabulous job, and I know I probably speak for the whole board. I feel very proud of her and that we can call her a Franklin student.
Absolutely.
As far as community engagement, I went to a listening session with Ken Skoronsky and Julian Bradley and another individual on the finance committee. They wanted to hear what people in the Franklin community were thinking about, and there was quite a bit of discussion. I asked them about the money that they approve in the budget. What is that, Jim, October, November?
When they approve it?
Yeah.
It'll be approved probably in the summer.
Okay, but the final numbers of what we're gonna get is like we hear about it in October.
Right.
Yeah, and then we don't get the money till the next June, maybe even July. And I asked them why we can't get that money earlier, because it is approved. And all they could say was, yeah, they've heard that before.
Well, you feel college try.
Yeah, but they said that would be too big of a leap to part with that much money that much earlier. They just couldn't do it all at once.
All right, thank you. Moving on, closed session. I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.815 1C and F for discussion, consideration, and issuance of preliminary notice of non-renewal for a specific employee, namely teacher.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, do we need to have a,
You need a roll call
do
vote?
we need a roll call vote?
Yes.
Mrs. Witkowski,
Aye.
Mr. Alexandrovich,
Aye.
Mr. Sprague,
Aye.
Mrs. Sapersky,
Aye.
Dr. Khan.
Aye.
Dr. Beer.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
All right, we are in closed session. Back in open session at 8:56. Need my glasses back on.
All right.
Or just look right at my computer.
Yeah, you're right, that's a good place to get that time.
All right, school board member comments.
Thank you for a good first meeting. Thank you all.
You already feel like a regular.
Yeah, you
Right.
heard everything, it's closed session. Lots of board, lots of community comment.
All right, future agenda items, principal action plan update, Ben Franklin Elementary, Countrydale, and Robinwood. 2021-22 health insurance, youth mental health report, and enhancing social emotional skills in students grant. And I would guess that is the next meeting on the 12th, is it?
Yes.
Because the action plan for Southwood Glen and Elementary and Pleasant View will be the 26th, tobacco poster winner presentation, technology report, communication plan update, and board retreat discussion will also be on those days, I would guess. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?